next to Galway 23 points, Wexford 15 points. The game which doubled up as the Walsh Cup Final, Galway claiming that prize. And it was a game really where Galway at stages looked like they could really blow Wexford away, but Wexford's shooting at times was unbelievably poor.
Yeah, it was I suppose in the first half, look, Wexford were right in. I suppose, look, you know the way it works down Wexford Park as well, is that they have their own climate down there and that it seems to be that the prevailing wind is, I've never seen it so strong, is that every single game down there seems to be a game of two halves due to it. And yeah, look, Wexford probably, like, they started the game really, really well, but then look, Galway just kind of hung on in there the first half, playing into that breeze, and they got in. I think they went in maybe a point down. It was at half time, and I might have even been level, actually, I think it was as well. But that was the thing, was that Wexford hit a lot of aimless ball from their own 65, 45 as well, that they just drove it. And it was nearly kind of trickling out over the end line a fair bit too. And then in the second half, Galway used it so much better. And look, they'll be quite happy, I think, with how it went for them as well. Like, Nyland is an interesting one, that on the freeze, he's absolutely brilliant. That he never seems to miss in the freeze. But the only thing I'm a little bit concerned about him for is just whether he has enough productivity in open play, and that's going to be a real interesting one, is that for Galway, is who plays centre half forward, because I think it is going to be a straight shootout between him and Conor Cooney, because with Cooney, I think the free taking isn't as good as with Nyland, but I think Cooney gives you a bit more of a ball winner in the half forward line as well. So I think that's one to watch out for. Other positives, I suppose, from Galway, I thought, like, some of their extra panel members really stood up well. Sean Lennon in midfield looked really strong. Owen Lawless looks to be a good player to have in the backs as well. And then as well, come off the bench, Liam Collins is absolutely electric as well. Like, he's only a small, slight enough fella as well, but like, with a bit of an SSC in there as well, he's like a very, very natural hurler. I think he looks to be one of the most skilled players I've seen so far this year anyway. And yeah, look, I think Galway, what we're going to see from them this year is that they're going to correct some of the issues that they had against Limerick last year, is that their panel is going to be way, way stronger. And that, I reckon, by the time we get around to the latter stage of the All-Ireland this year, I think Henry's going to be a lot more comfortable using his bench than what he was anyway in that Limerick game last year.
Agreed. And it was definitely apparent that in the Limerick game, they needed, people to come in off the bench. That was crucial last few minutes, and Limerick just had the guys on the bench to turn to, the likes of David Reedy, that really dragged them over the line that day. Another one, Donald O'Shea, thought he looked very impressive in full forward. He's, a minor all-star, someone that, has been tipped to breakthrough for a few years now. Interestingly, and I do want your opinion on this, Conor Whelan's positioning was interesting in this game. He played a lot more deeper this time.
Yeah, no, he did, and that was the thing, is that he came out, and he won an absolute world of ball, and it was really interesting in that he often kind of rotated a little bit with Jason Flynn. Jason Flynn went in a few times. Donald O'Shea kind of sometimes came out, and then he went in as well. So they all took their brief stages during the game where they did rotate, but Whelan did tend to be mostly out around either centre half forward or wing forward, and I think it does make sense, because like, you'd struggle to think of a forward that's a better ball winner than Whelan. He has the size, well over 6 foot as well, and like the way he's built as well. And you think about like the paw he has on him as well, is that he's just this absolute weapon that you can just launch puck outs on top of as well. And look, 9 times out of 10 he's going to come down with it. So look, I think he's an absolute weapon for Galway to have there. And I think Henry, he's trying out a few things with him as well, and he's got that versatility that, like, later on the year, that you can have. Look, Cathal Mannion will be coming back in as well. He'll probably push out a bit more, then Whelan might go back in, but it gives him that versatility as well, that maybe Jason Flynn can go in further on, Conor Cooney can go in, Nyland can go in and stuff as well. So that's the thing, I think, is that they're trying out a few things as well. I do think maybe later on during the year, I think they probably will go back to a Concannon and Conor Whelan full forward line, I think, though, because I do think that's what probably is the most dangerous as well, and allow Cathal Mannion to be that roving corner forward and go out and play around midfield if he wants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. Then obviously on top of that, we have to look at Wexford. Their shooting, as I mentioned, was not the best, but they were missing some, key players, the likes of Lee Chin, the likes of Rory O'Connor, who they would turn to score a lot for them. What would you make of that if you're Darragh Egan?
Yeah, look, that's the thing. I think that's the nail on the head there, is that, yeah, look, it's not ideal, and that the scoring wasn't great, but at the same time as well is that like Rory O'Connor and Shin are going to add on. You could nearly say they could add on 7 or 8 more points to that team as well, and that it's very difficult to make a kind of a call on them when you're missing your 2 best forwards. You can even add in Jack O'Connor into the wing forward as well. I'd say he's good for a few points too there as well. So, like, I actually think that Wexford, I wouldn't be too worried about Wexford. I think that like it's. I think what we're going to find is that I think Galway are actually in a pretty good place at the moment, and that based on that, I'd say argue that they were probably the most impressive performance I watched at the weekend, and I think they just look to be really, really sharp, and that just with the way they are at the moment, it'd be interesting if Henry rotates the team an awful lot as well. But if they give the league a good crack, then look, they'd be my early tips as well to be topping anyway, to topping their division, I suppose, anyway as well, because I just think that they look to be in a really, really sharp spot at the moment, and they just seem to be finding a few extra players at the moment. So I don't think from a Wexford perspective, I wouldn't be too worried, because when it comes to championship, the reality is that everything's going to go through, like it has done recently as well, everything's going to go through Chin, McDonald and Rory O'Connor. And if you can find a few players, like for instance, Charlie McGuckin hitting 3 points is encouraging. So if you can have him complementing the wings, you can put Jack O'Connor back in. And then that leaves, if you want to have Cathal Dunbar as well as a rotating corner forward as well, I still think that's a pretty good forward line. And when it gets to Croke Park, if you have those 6 forwards up there as well, you even got the likes of Oisin Foley's, players like that as well, that if you have those players around, if you have those players around, Oisin Pepper as well, another good player, like I think that team will still score enough as well. And I think that once they get those players back, I think they'll be fine.